So Marina Abramovic, you're a pioneering performance artist, world-renowned, and many people will have seen you perform in The Artist is Present at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and many thousands more will have seen the film of the same name. But people don't know your life story. Why have you decided to tell us it, and why now?
I think it's really important to look a new life in some point, and I think now for me this is the point, because just next month I'm getting 70, and I think it's such a huge number. I have no idea how this happened, but it's there, and I was thinking to take this memoirs more like a kind of work that I should reflect my life. I should free myself from these memories, and I don't need to remember them anymore. So it's like really changing your skin, like getting into a new body and get ready for the last period of your existence. Plus, my life has not been easy and been very difficult in so many ways. And I was thinking to share the story with young generation, especially young generation readers, regardless they are interested in art or not. Really, this book is targeted for general reader, to see if you have the will and you have determination and believe what you're doing, that is not any obstacle you could not pass.
Yeah, I mean, that feels like a very present message in your book. Like you say, it's been a very difficult life, as I suppose lots of lives are. And you've been very candid in this book. You don't feel protective of your privacy. You've told us everything.
But in my privacy, I actually have a very strong rule that don't hide anything from anybody, because eventually everybody find out the truth, and like why I should not tell the truth for the first time. And I also come from the family who always been hiding the truth. I mean, just a funny example of my grandmother in the book, when the war in Yugoslavia started, the Balkan War, my brother will go on the roof of the building and shake antenna, so that she think the television was broken. And then they say, oh no, we have to repair television. And television was broken for 4 years, so she never even knew that ever war was. Or when her only son died in a terrible car crash, my mother didn't tell her that her brother died. And she fabricated for 10 years the letters that he's in China, and read my grandmother every week one new letter. I mean, I didn't want to live in this kind of world of pretensions and hiding truth. I just wanted to say things as I remember them, and how really things are. But I got so many already negative critics about that memory, including my own brother, including some friends, saying how I can possibly remember the events in Yugoslavia. I do, because they remember very different. And I say to them, but then write your own story. This is my story, and this is how I remember them.
And because you do talk quite frankly about your childhood and your family, and maybe that there was an absence of love in your family, especially...
It's not maybe, it was.
There definitely was, especially...
Maybe it's not negotiable, it was. And
from your mother especially, is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's all true, and it's a difficult childhood. But at the same time in the book, as the life goes, and my mother finally died, and I went to clean her apartment, and I found her diaries. And I read in these diaries the woman I didn't know, the very incredibly emotional, sensitive, full of suffering, and never showed to me any of this during the time she was alive. So I felt like if I knew just at least one page of this diary during her lifetime, my relation to her would be different, because I think she had to be hard and so inaccessible just to protect us. And in a way, all her life, what she do is to make me stronger. But at the same time, she damaged me without, showing this love, because she mistaken this for actually spoiling me. One thing, I'm definitely not spoiled through this whole thing.
But you feel like you were perhaps harsher on your mother than your father, because it does feel like you really adored your father.
No, it's true, but in that time I didn't even know that my father was cheating all the time. I didn't know that my mother was suffering, because everything was looking different. When you're a kid, you don't exactly know what's happening. You only see the facts of the very the kind of damaged relationship, and then you say, oh, my father buy me presents, and he's always beautiful blonde lady with us, and then I bring the presents super happy, and my mother throw them out the window. But if I was my mother, knowing what my father was doing, I would do the same. So, you know, all this, but all these things are, I think that's, you know, it's part of learning process and growing. I always believe that every bad experience is there in your life for a reason. And you have to learn and get stronger and you get the best out of it. Because I remember doing interviews in America and everybody's so focused how I was abused as a child and how this affected me. And looking now, I am just fine. I'm actually better than ever before. So everything had a reason. And I'm not kind of sorry for any of things happened to me. I think I had to happen, they had a purpose.
And art, in a way, as well, saved you from that, or perhaps you found art because of that, but that seemed to be the spur for you to...
But I could not say, I really don't think that art found me. I think that when you're an artist, you kind of have DNA to have artists already in the mother womb, no matter what. And I remember since childhood, regardless my situation in the family, regardless my relationship to my father, I always wanted to do art. I don't know, I was living in this world of the books and classic music and writing poetry. And I actually create my entire parallel universe, who I still have. And one thing that is very important in me, that to find a way to have always to think out of the box and to always find the way that I can do things for the first time, like seeing the world like a child. And especially when you get older, I think to go back into this curiosity of the child is the only way you can fight repetition and kind of grunginess and anger and you know, the kind of complaints, I'm old. You know, I don't feel that.
And why performance art?
You know, for an artist it's very important from right from the beginning to find the right tool for expression. And some artists takes for a long time to do that, and takes, you know, go from one media to another media. And, you know, they're great painters and they like seclusion of the studio and not to expose themselves to the audience. Some people, you know, are the poets or they write wonderful books or filmmakers. But to me, when I was working first as a painter, then I started working with the sound, and through the sound I came to performance. And when I really step into the performance structure and work in front of audience, I never could forget that feeling of total electricity, of complete being possessed, being in fever, being kind of energetically wake up, that I never experienced in the studio or with the painting. And I knew instantly that this is my media. I was so lucky to find this very early. But I find this media early when, you know, in the time when nobody ever believed the performance is any kind of art. They think that was total bullshit. That was not, you know, there was not even entertainment. And it was so much bad criticism, so much attacks on the performance artists those days. So, you know, it's not easy to be convinced if everybody's against you for all these years. Now we are 50 years later. I'm sitting next to you and talking about book and memoirs and being accepted. But it took 50 years, you know, it's a half of a lifetime.
And how did you keep believing in yourself? How did you know that you were making something important?
This is the kind of inner feeling you have and intuition that you have to follow. This is why this book is important for the readers, to actually understand that they should look in themselves and follow their own intuition. And no matter if everybody tells you you're wrong, or which was happening to me all the time. You know, my art critics, the professors was completely thinking I'm out of mind. I should be put in mental hospital. My mother and my father was questioning party meetings, what kind of education. You have your daughter running around naked, burning Communist Star in the square. I mean, it was unthinkable, this whole thing. And yet, you know, I think that was the only way I can go. And there was something in me that I felt that there was a purpose in all this. And this took me, you know, a long time to get where I am now.
One of the most striking things, I think, in the book and in your work is the physical pain that you subject yourself to. And those descriptions in the book are just startling. You know, I just think, why would you do that?
Okay, this is such an important question, because, you know, if you think about the entire culture and about, if you think about our humanity, what do human beings are afraid? They're afraid of suffering, they're afraid of pain, and they're afraid of mortality. And that three things are being reflected in entire culture of our civilization, through the drawings, through the paintings, through the books, through the movies, anything, you know, any media, you know, dealing with that. So I'm dealing with the same thing, but only what in my case, my tool is the performance, and my object, the subject of my work is the body. So I actually stage this difficult things in the front of audience, but I never do them in my private life because I don't have kind of energy, or I don't like to do anything painful. I actually hate pain. But a way to get rid of fear of pain is to actually go through the pain and find what is on the other side, which I did, and use the energy of public also in the process, and worked really well. I mean, that's the way how we should confront ourselves with things and not avoid it, because by avoiding it, you're just living the same structure over and over again. And I like to show the people that actually you can confront things, and you can get rid of fear of pain, and you can actually control pain. And this is nothing new. I got lots of teaching from the East, you know, Eastern the culture, especially ancient civilizations, you know, like Aborigines, the Indians, the shamans in Brazil, who actually have a very old wisdom, and their ceremonies are incredibly difficult. They go through some kind of state of clinical dying in order to actually get this different state of consciousness to understand all this. And that's what it is. It's not just like I'm like to shock people and just to cut myself. I don't even do now this, because this was done in an early period of my career. And now I understand that this is actually easy. It's not even a great pain about that. The much more difficult is emotional pain. Much more difficult is your mind. Your mind is such a complex structure. I mean, we believe that we use 30% of the brain, but I've just been talking to some scientists recently with the brain research laboratories. They say, oh no, this is totally not true. We're only using 10%. So this is what I'm interested in now. Before, it was physical limits. Now it's about mental limits.
And I thought that because you describe in the book the passages about love and your relationships and lost love, you describe that quite frankly and quite brutally, I think. And was it painful for you to dredge up those memories, or has that lost its pain?
Of course, lost the pain. It was very painful at the time, but the loss, because, you know, I staged them as theater pieces. I just put them up there, and I say to all the world about them, and I completely free myself from this. It was so wonderful. I mean, when I was doing Bob Wilson, which actually was the premiere was here in Manchester for the festival, the piece called Life and Death of Marina Abramovic, with the stage even my own funeral. You know, Bob Wilson looked at my material and I say, okay, I'm not interested in your art, everybody knows. Let me do your life, because it's insane, interesting. So he said, what are we going to do? She looked at me and said, you're going to play your mother and you. I said, what? And he really made me play that woman, the mother. It was such an unbelievable, liberating thing to go through. That's all. I cry literally every rehearsal, because it was so devastating to go through these childhood memories. And then one day Bob Wilson said to me, okay, stop this bullshit crying. He said, public have to cry, not you. And then I'm free. And this book is another way to get free.
You mention in the book that you didn't have children, and that you chose not to have children because you were pursuing a life as an artist. And I wonder, did that feel like a sacrifice?
No, I never had the motherhood kind of feeling for the motherhood. I never had this clock, you know, biological clock. I just didn't have even, it never crossed my mind. You know, nothing like this. And I think there must be so many great mothers who have this and should have children. I was sent this planet for another purpose. But now I've been so crucified by this, you know. She had a true abortion. She's killing children to make art. There was posted so many, you know, Twitters of the woman in China feeding on the two tits, two children, and writing computers and say, or writing on the computer, you see, we can do it. Great for them. I could not. And I think I had the real rights to actually take my life in my own hands and do what I want. And I was just, somebody came in my defense recently and said, okay, George Clooney took 3 Oscars and didn't want to have children for the same reason, want to be married for a long time. You see, and why they've never been mentioned or criticized? But because the woman, like you have some kind of the function to fulfill. I really didn't feel like doing that.
There's a line in the book, and it's you saying to the art critic Cynthia Carr, let me just check, you say, in the end, you are really alone, whatever you do. Do you still feel that way?
Yes, that's really true. Not for me, for everybody. Because, you know, you die alone and you're born alone, and nothing you can change about that. But this was when I walked the Great Wall of China, and I was coming to say goodbye to Ulay after 2,500 kilometer meeting in the middle. You know, it's especially right now, you know, whatever you do, whatever you can be with person or not, you're alone on the end. You know, that loneliness is something that you have to get used to, especially if you're an artist like, you know, me. I'm really literally modern nomad, you know. I travel from place to place and do my work, and because in many ways I'm the work, so I have to go. And there's lots of lonely hotel rooms that you have to deal with. And it's fine, because satisfaction of making good work and having public who appreciate, it's huge too, you know. So you have to kind of give up something to get something else. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just been signing the books like in Tate Modern like 15 minutes ago before I came here. And, you know, which is amazing, my public is extremely young public. The youngest kid who signed the book was 14, but everybody was under 30. And you see my generation of older women and men kind of circulating and looking at all these young kids standing in line since this morning. And my generation is just like, you know, I feel so much jealousy about this, because like you're not supposed to be happy with 70 and have a good career and have this huge young audience, which I have right now. You know, before I had 10 people in the 70s, 20 was a lot, 30 was like, wow. Mm-hmm. And now it's hundreds of thousands, and that means that my work lives. Mm-hmm. And that is important to me. This is important to me more than any loneliness I experienced. It was worth it.
Mm-hmm. So life is good at 69, turning 70.
It's amazingly good. I can't believe. You know, it's my grandmother who lived 103. She said, okay, when you get 70, you're really going to enjoy, because then you've done your part. And now it's last period that every day is a miracle. Mm-hmm. And I feel every day is a miracle. And that kind of, and also you need the time to pass in your life and go through difficult periods, because you learn things. You kind of achieve some kind of wisdom state of mind, because you notice how it's going to happen. You know, you deal with reality different, and you see things as a big picture, not narrow little problem, not poor me, but you can see from up there, you know, how everything looks on this planet. Mm-hmm. And what part you're playing in this cosmic game.
Mm-hmm. So do you relax a little bit?
Yes, I relax in working. You know, I just learned that this is what I'm going to probably die working. If any of the, you know, younger kids would just look at my schedule, like in 10 days, what I do every single day. I wake up and it's like a soldier. I just go through the day and do whatever was asked for me to do. That's what I...
So it's all work for you?
It's work, and then, you know, I have a research. I'm not going to holidays, but I do research trips, which I go to faraway places, mm-hmm. you know, connect with nature, with different cultures. And I also go to the Ayurveda retreats, which I'm going now for 1 month in December. And that's wonderful. It's anything between prison, sanatorium, and monastery. It's a combination of 3 things, which mm-hmm. is, everything is so restricted, mm-hmm. which I love. You know, mm-hmm. breakfast is half-boiled apple, and you're still hungry, they give you other half-boiled apple without having, they're not appreciated to give you other half-boiled, but you know, if you have to. I love this kind of stuff, because then your mind is so clear, and you clean your body. It's all about cleaning the body.
You like to deprive yourself of things.
Yeah, because then you enjoy things. You know, we have too much of everything. It's like this is overconsumption of the culture. And you know, the old Sufi statement what they use in advertising a lot, but they don't know it's come from Sufi actually. It's less is more. But now I had since ever this, my own version of this. Let's have more and more of less and less. Because we have too much of everything, we don't need all that, you know. And it's very important to restrict yourself. Then you have these months of total restriction. You know how it feels drinking the first cafe latte after that? The pleasure is beyond. And if you have every day, you don't appreciate it.
That's a good philosophy for life in general, I think. But you were quite, well, in the book you speak about these brilliant parties you throw for your birthday, like the one you threw for your 60th. Are you going to do one for your 70th?
Yes, we're same Guggenheim Museum, and we are doing the big party, which is a little bit secret what I'm going to do. But 70 is a big deal, you know, especially in America. American women, I will never tell the age. They will be like, what? You're telling your age? And plus, this is culture that actually being old is like being dirty or something. You know, you have to be ever young. And I really love the fact that you kind of happy with your age and you're happy where you are, and let's go and have party. You know, just like now is the moment, you know, to celebrate what was in the past, having the memoirs done, and you know, looking to the future.
I noticed in the book that you dedicated it to friends and enemies.
I'm very happy you come out with this. It's really important. It was so important to me. Before this, some time ago, I dedicated one book to my dog, Alba, which I love very much. And she loved me unconditionally. And my mother didn't talk to me 3 months. I said, you dedicate dog to the dog. I know English people understand that.
Yes.
but this book was very important, this decision, Friends and Enemies. Because, you know, I love, you know, His Holiness Dalai Lama, and he said once, it's very easy to forgive to friends, but it's much more difficult to forgive to enemy, because when you forgive to the enemy, then you really learn the true compassion. And for me, it's very interesting that some kind of how you say, things about enemies and friends. I have so many friends who, during my lifetime, become enemies, and so many enemies who become friends. And it's shifting constantly, that structure. So I think both of them are important. And for my birthday, one thing I can tell you, I'm going to invite all my enemies. I'm going to invite Ulay and Paolo and all the Slavs that I almost, you know, die from broken heart. And my brother, who just wrote a very bad article against me, telling that all I say is not true. Anyway, you know, I'm inviting, I don't know if they come or not, but I wanted to have them all there. It's the moment that I have to, you know, have this to forgive. Well,
again, that sounds so wise. You're like a font of wisdom.
Yes, but when you get my age, you get two. It comes out of lots of, you know, bad experience.
And then because of the day that's in it, and the day that this is the day that Donald Trump has been voted President of the United States of America, what do you make of that?
I knew this was going to happen because I spent lots of time the last few years in Brazil with shamans. I just made the film, the show here on the festival called Space in Between, on that kind of journey to see these people. And about 6 months ago, just when you will start, you know, the campaign, before it was everybody ridiculed all thing, the two of the very famous shamans from Brazil said that he's going to win. So, and I was telling to friends, I even made the bets for dinner. They said, oh my God, you know, you're going to lose. And today, everybody is in shock. I was not shocked. Why I was not shocked? Because, you know, I live in America, and already at that time, even if he win or not win, 50 million Americans vote for him already. This is a state, this is like a Germany, you know. So that means that what he's saying, the Americans secretly actually think, but they don't have courage to say. And it's profoundly, America's profoundly racist, which is really quite shocking. And you know, another again Sufi sentence, which is important to say today, is they say the worst is the best. Because the worst, the most difficult and the most unproductive, keep things in the middle. Or you go all the way down and all structures collapse and you build from new, or otherwise there's no change. I hope that this will bring some incredible dramatic changes. I don't think good ones, but it's change have to be done. We reached something in this planet that it's not working. I mean, what I'm talking to you, you have Brexit now, and now we have Trump. It's like we are best friends.
Yeah.
Look like, and let's say what we get. You know, if we say next week is the war to China, I have no idea what's going to happen. But it's a very unsettled situation, and I really think that right now the only way that humanity can change is to change the consciousness, to change the way of thinking. And on the personal level, not talking about others, but to see what I can do on my own personal level, you know. This is why for me my institute is important, legacy and Abramovic method they're creating. It's just to exactly, you know, target to that idea of changing consciousness. Recently they asked me, but what you would suggest politicians, what kind of book to read? And I'm thinking, and I say, Gandhi biography. You know, we forgot the dignity and moral and, you know, word of honor, all this old-fashioned stuff, which, you know, we don't know even to find a dictionary anymore.
Thank you very much, Marina, for speaking to us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you.